Thank you, everybody. First of all, I want to just say what an awesome conference this is. It's just spectacular. And I want to thank John Mackey and Raj and Kip for inviting me to be here and also inviting me to be on the board. I kind of can't even believe they want me on the board. It's kind of like, really? Because I'm not a business person, and I want to make sure you know that right off the bat. I've spent my entire life working on the large global issues that we face as what I call a pro-activist. I'd never heard activist used the way that Ron used it this morning, so I'm not talking about that kind. So don't be afraid of that. I never heard that term before in the corporate world that way, but I've had a really incredible, what I call a committed life. I got involved in ending world hunger as a young woman and felt very, very grateful to have my life used, really, to work on the end of world hunger. And that gave me the privilege of working all over this planet. I had the privilege of working at the feet of Mother Teresa. I knew her very well. She trained me. I was with the Hunger Project. And as Amanda said when she introduced me, some people call this the not-for-profit sector that I've been in for my entire life, or the non-profit sector, or the non-governmental sector, all the non-words that come before the sector. And I don't like being in the not-for or the non-sector. So because I think we're working on the problems that all of us care deeply about in our heart and soul. So I call it the social profit sector, because we're generating a social profit for everyone everywhere and all children of all species for all time in the work that we do. And I would say conscious capitalism is now part of my social profit sector. Thank you very much for coming over. And the way I spell the word profit is two ways, P-R-O-F-I-T and P-R-O-P-H-E-T. I consider everybody in this room a social prophet, P-R-O-P-H-E-T. People who are standing in a future that we know we want, the future that we believe in, the future that's filled with love for our children, love for this planet, love for other species, knowing that we are the ancestors of the future, and the decisions we make will influence and cause the future of life for the next 1,000 years. That's a huge responsibility when you actually really know that, and I think our generations now do know that. But it also ennobles your life. It uplifts you. It gives you a kind of sense of the difference you can make. As Amanda said, I wrote a book, and Vern was so nice to put it on the screen. Oh, it's on the screen again, called The Soul of Money. And you would think someone who wrote a book called The Soul of Money would know a lot about economics and finance and investments. I don't know anything about that. What I do know about is people's relationship with money. People's sometimes dysfunctional, sometimes very, very confusing, sometimes very anxious and upsetting relationships with money. And I know that because I've raised hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for the causes I believe in. And when you do that, you are in very intimate conversations with human beings all over this world. I've trained about 50,000 fundraisers in 50 countries to raise money with integrity, not manipulate people, but speak to people about what is their highest purpose and how can we begin to move money away from fear and towards love. And that work has taken me into the intimate lives of some of the wealthiest people on this planet and some of the most resource-poor people on this planet. In fact, I've learned most of my lessons about money from people that I used to call poor. I used to call them poor because that's what society calls them. But when you work with people side by side, with your hands in the dirt, in places like Ethiopia after the 1984-1985 famine, with women who lost every single one of their children to starvation, and yet they're still alive. when you sit with them and grieve over the loss of a baby, of a 13-year-old, of a 7-year-old who was so hungry, so thirsty, that they actually died in your arms. You begin to understand that these people are not poor. They're some of the most resilient, incredibly courageous, incredibly innovative people on this planet. They're intelligent. They may not know how to read or write, but no one's ever given them that opportunity. But they have keen intelligence. They exhibit more courage to live through one day than most of us are going to need in our lifetime. That kind of courage comes from an inner strength that when the outer resources are not available, the only place to go is within. And in places like this, where outer resources are so abundant, we don't often go within the way Raj brought us this morning. So people that I used to call poor, I realize are some of the most awesome people on earth, and I've learned so much from them. And what's poor is not them, but their circumstances. When we label people poor, we demean them and we demean ourselves because we can no longer see their whole and complete people. We can no longer see the profound nature of their humanity. It's their resources, their circumstances that are poor. So they're living in resource-poor circumstances. And often, people living in resource-poor circumstances have a kind of strength, have a kind of capacity that we all could draw on if we saw them for who they really are. I've also learned a lot of my lessons about money and life from people that I used to call rich, people like a lot of us here in this room. And when we call people rich, or we call them wealthy, and we label them that way, we can't see them anymore for who they actually are sometimes. It's their circumstances. They live in resource-rich circumstances. Perhaps, like all of you, they've created those circumstances and very proud of that. But at the same time, we start thinking when we're labeled that way that we are our trust fund, that we are our stock price, that we are our salary or our bonus. And we start looking outward rather than relying on that deep, deep, deep soul that's inside of us. So the Soul of Money book is really about accessing our soul. Money doesn't have a soul, even though it's sort of a trick title, The Soul of Money, but we do. And we can use money in a way that is a reflection of the deepest soul longings that we have. I talk about money like water. Vern referred to this early on at the opening of the conference. If you think about money, it's innocent. Money's innocent. It's just money. It's just, we made it up. We forget that. We invented it about 4,500 years ago, money historians say, and we invented it for the purpose of ensuring that everyone everywhere had a healthy and productive life, that everyone in the community or the village was taken care of. And that was a very, very important and powerful purpose for money. But that's a long time ago. And if this is the purpose line of money way back there somewhere, it went off that purpose line to ensure that everybody had everything they needed. And now it's used to marginalize often, to hoard, to make sure that some people have way more than others. And we are now in a relationship with money, I would say, that sometimes can be very dysfunctional. When you think about money like water, when you think about that it flows through every life, it doesn't belong to any of us, it belongs to all of us, and we move it around. We move it around as skillfully as we can. But when you think about water, when it moves, it cleanses, it purifies, it makes things grow, it can nourish. But when it's hoarded or held or stuck, it can make you toxic. It can become toxic like stagnant water. It's a conduit, money is. It's a current. That's why it's called a currency. And we can use it in ways that moves it towards the highest good. That's what I think fundraising is. That's what I think philanthropy is. And it can be exactly what business is all about. You know, my friend Paul Hawkins says a wonderful thing that I want to read a quote from him so I get it right. He says, he's an ecologist, and by the way, economists and ecologists, eco, it's all very, very related. And now those two things are starting to come together. One of the reasons I think I'm here is because as a pro-activist, I say I'm a pro-activist, not an activist, because I'm an activist for, not against anything. As a pro-activist, it's my commitment to bring business and activism together, the heart and mind of humanity, so that we can work together on the big problems of the world. Paul says business is the largest institution on the earth and the only mechanism on this planet powerful enough to produce the changes necessary to reverse global warming and social degradation. It's the only institution on earth that has enough power to reverse global warming and social degradation. And for me, conscious capitalism is all about that. So one of the things that has happened to me in the last 20 years, I've been at this for many, many, many decades, is I have been working in the Amazon rainforest. I still have a commitment to end world hunger, but now the work of global warming and the environment has called to me very, very deeply, and I had an encounter with the Achuar people deep in the Amazon rainforest of Ecuador. And the Achuar people were an uncontacted tribe when we first came to them. And they gave us the opportunity to really look deeply with them as how we could be helpful to them. And they told us the most important work we could do, besides supporting them and preserving their land and territory, the sacred headwaters of the Amazon, is to change the dream of the modern world. Change the dream of the modern world. First, that was a little daunting, but then we realized what they were talking about is the trance. The trance, the structures and systems that we're bound by have us doing things that are inconsistent with our humanity. And so we invented a program to actually awaken people from the trance. First, we had to wake up ourselves. And it's called Awakener. And it addresses the environmental crisis, the social justice crisis, and the spiritual crisis that we're living in right now. I'm going to show you a little clip, a very fast clip of this program called Awakener. Can you roll the video, please? So that's a 1-minute clip of a 3-hour program that we have designed to bring into the business community, to bring into your company, to bring to your employees, to bring to you, to wherever you are on the spectrum of being awake about the challenges we face as a human community. This will dramatically expand your sense of what's going on in the world so you can be a much more effective agent for the transformation that needs to take place on this planet for the future that we all want. So we're offering the Awakener to everybody here, and I hope every single company in this room decides to bring the Awakener into your program. I'll tell you how to get in touch with it in a moment. And then finally, I want to invite each and every one of you to go to the sacred headwaters of the Amazon rainforest with me in August. Living and working with indigenous people in the most biodiverse ecosystem on this planet, walking in the forest with them, understanding their cosmology, the way they see the world, the breathtaking beauty of the sacred headwaters of the Amazon, which is the source of the Amazon system, which is the source of our entire climate system, will transform your way of seeing your business, will transform your way of seeing life, will transform your way of seeing your children, your grandchildren, future generations. And we'll have you really see your role in bringing forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human presence on this planet. Last August, we took Raj Sisodia to the rainforest, and he had this to say about that experience. Can you roll that video, please?
Hi, my name is Raj Sisodia, and I'm delighted to be here in the rainforest with the Pachamama group, experiencing this beautiful program that they've put together to bring people from the West into the indigenous culture, into the rainforest, to understand more deeply our connection, not only our connection, but the fact that we are part of nature and somehow we have separated ourselves. I'm part of the conscious capitalism movement, and part of my reason for coming here was to really understand more deeply how we in the world of business have lost that connection. We've started teaching nature as simply a resource to be exploited. And so this is really part of the healing that is necessary for all of us. I encourage all business leaders to have this experience, to understand our roots, where we come from, and how do we align with nature in a way that creates a future that is sustainable for all of us. It is also a part of the healing that is necessary in the world, and that's also part of the reason for me to come here, to understand about how we heal with nature and in nature. And so again, it's been a beautiful experience, and I encourage everybody to try to have it. Thank you.
So that's Raj's testimonial. And then I'm just going to ask you to put on the screen how people can learn about the Soul of Money Institute, how they can learn about the Awakener. That should be going on the screen right now. There it is. And Pachamama Alliance, we have a very, very special website or a link for you. Pachamama.org/cc is for conscious capitalism. So if you get your phone out and take a picture of all of that so you can get in touch with us. If you want the Awakener in your company, I hope everybody 100% says yes to that. It's only 3 hours. It's affordable. We'll come in and transform your whole company in 3 hours and give you a big context for your work. And then come to the rainforest with us. We can take 10, maybe 15 CEOs. We can't take many people. People are already signing up. Sign up today. Join us. It's in August. And then finally, I'm going to put a quote on the screen that I think is important to leave you with. In the 21st century, the glory of the human has been the desolation of the earth. And now the desolation of the earth is becoming the destiny of the human. From here on, the primary judgment of all human institutions, professions, programs, and activities will be determined by the extent to which they inhibit, ignore, or foster a mutually enhancing human-earth relationship. Thank you. God bless you all. Keep being ever more awake and conscious. Business is the way through. I love you guys. Thank you.